Okay. Hello, my name is Atasha, and I am the Consortium Manager for the Healthy Start Enhanced San Bernardino program. Welcome to another podcast episode. Something big is being planned on the west side of Barstow called the Barstow International Gateway, or BIG. People have questions. What is it? Where exactly would it go? What changes could it bring? And most importantly, how can local families be part of the process? Today, we're joined by Ryan Calbreth from UE's Green Locomotive Project and Danielle Sells, a Barstow mom who's bringing the on-the-ground perspective. We'll reference publicly available project descriptions and the city's process, plus what we've heard directly from community members. So Ryan, could you please introduce yourself and your work?
Absolutely, thank you. Hey, my name is Ryan Calbreth. I'm a organizer with the United Electrical Radio and Machine Workers. My assignment is the Green Locomotive Project, which is dedicated to uniting our members with the environmental justice movement and residents directly affected by freight pollution and freight development in order to fight for clean air and good jobs.
Thank you. And Danielle, can you tell listeners a little bit about you and why you wanted to join this conversation today?
Yes. Hi, everyone. As Natasha said, I'm Danielle, a Barstow mom of 3, and I've just been getting into the maternal health space and infant health space and just seeing, all the different pressures that come from whether it's environment or, socioeconomic pressures, and just really passionate about those things. So
Thank you. And we're happy to have you here. All right. So Ryan, in plain language, can you explain to community what is BIG?
Absolutely. The BIG is a big deal. The Barstow International Gateway is a proposed rail project brought forth by BNSF Railway. That's Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, which is currently already operating a major railway in the city of Barstow. This is going to be operating in addition to that railway. It's going to be the biggest rail project in the country. It's going to consist of a classification yard, so a normal rail yard, what you see in Colton, San Bernardino, places like that. An intermodal yard, normally what you see more so on ports facilities, types of like big crane numbers that move stuff off of ships onto trains, off of trains onto trucks, that kind of thing, as well as a warehousing district. So not just a singular warehouse, but mini warehouses, and a solar field they have planned because there is not currently sufficient infrastructure to power a facility of this nature. It's going to be several billions of dollars invested. It is going to create some jobs. There's going to be a lot of construction involved in building a facility of this size as well. But at 4,700 acres, there's a big gap between what the community is sacrificing up there and kind of giving over to this private corporation and what they are getting in return. And that is kind of where the conflict lies and why we've gotten involved in trying to get to the bottom of exactly what's going on there.
Thank you for explaining that. So for our families listening, the basic idea is it's a large rail and logistics hub where cargo can move from the ports to trains, then be sorted and transferred in Barstow. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit more about where is it and what's the process right now with the project?
Absolutely. We're currently approaching the final stages of the environmental review process. Under California law, projects of this nature need to have certain things accounted for. What's it going to do to the air? What's it going to do to water? What's it going to do to the soil? These types of things. And also more wishy-washy than that is what's it going to do like growth wise? We're trying to predict the future and have an idea of, okay, a facility like this that brings in some jobs and attracts new residents, like how are those people going to live? What, like, how are they, where are their kids going to go to school? Those types of things. So those types of questions get accounted for in the environmental review process. They have already released the draft environmental impact report. The review period for that was between November and early January. You may be thinking, oh, that was during the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's holidays. No wonder I didn't hear about it, and you'd be correct. And now I don't know the exact number, but I believe over 10,000 comments were submitted in response to that draft environmental impact report. And now tomorrow we are waiting for the final environmental impact report, where we expect to have a lot of those comments responded to, as well as some more of the details ironed out. And now, upon that report being released, we're going to have 8 days before the first public hearing about it, where the Planning Commission of Barstow is going to vote on a recommendation for the City Council in regards to the project. And that's going to be May 16th at 1 p.m. at the Barstow Community College.
So where can community go to look at this environmental report once it's posted? Is there anywhere specific they can go?
Yeah, absolutely. The Barstow, the city government has a website set up where all of these documents, the draft, the comments, everything involved with the project is kind of concentrated there. And it might be easier to just Google Barstow, California, big project, but the exact URL, we can put it in the notes, but barstowca.org/department/community-development-department/planning/Barstow General Update.com. There we go. Kind of a mouthful, but that is the website. They are legally required to capture all of these things and hold them at that website. And just a note of caution for the general population that's digging into this thing. These environmental impact report documents are tens of thousands of pages long. They are not designed to be easily digested by regular folks like you and I. They are filled with a bunch of legalese and specifications about certain the environmental review process, which is not necessarily designed to be accessed by the average person. It's a thing for lawyers and the representatives of big railway companies like this to kind of be playing their own game, while folks who want to get very basic questions answered, like, can my kid breathe safely at school or not? They don't really emphasize that quite as much in these documents.
Okay, thank you for explaining that further. Because I was probably going to go look at that, and tens of thousands in my head would probably explode. But I hope some of our community members are able to access it and maybe get some assistance on breaking down and pulling out the important aspects and how the project will affect them and their health. So Danielle, I want to ask you, what are you concerned about being a Barstow resident, and how are you feeling about this project?
Honestly, I'm actually pretty concerned. Just because I have so many questions, and one of the biggest questions, especially with just what's happening in the country, where a lot of small communities are being majorly impacted by bigger corporations that are bringing, big infrastructure projects. And there's not a lot of concern about what's happening to community members, whether it's their water supplies or, their air quality and stuff. And I feel like as a resident, sometimes you can feel like it's just your little tiny voice up against, this big giant of Goliath. And you really want the reassurance from the city, from the county, whoever is approving it, are they going to hold the corporations accountable? Is there going to be any, set aside monetary amounts for people that are impacted in the future? Because it's not if it's going to be impactful or negatively impactful, there's going to be that impact felt. And just who's going to, I can't even think of the word, but just really hold them to the fire, and not be 10, 20 years down the line and it's like, oh, woe was me, all these things are happening, destructiveness, and and so for me, especially with it being literally in my backyard, only probably if not to, yeah, it is really right down the street of where they're going to be putting it in. I definitely have a huge concern about how that's going to impact my family going forward.
Thank you, Danielle, for bringing that community perspective and local resident perspective as well, right, where this project is going. So Ryan, I want to come back
Quick
to
question.
you.
Oh, sorry,
go
baby
ahead.
crying in the background?
A little bit, but it's not bad.
Okay.
It's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We're moms, we're family, it's okay. It's all good. We like to hear their voice as well. They need to know about what's going on too. All right, so Ryan, I wanted to bring it back to you. I wanted just to frame to community when we talk about this rail project and that it's being proposed, and I'm sure they're gonna have some questions. Why is that conversation relevant to community members? Like, what questions would they possibly have, and what information can we share with them?
Absolutely. The first question that I get from folks is like, why is this happening? Who is standing to gain from this type of a project? And the answer is, like a lot of problems in this country, there is an extremely wealthy person who stands to take the most benefit from it. And in this case, it is Mr. Warren Buffett. I've got the Forbes billionaire list pulled up right now. He's sitting pretty at number 12 with a net worth of $141.4 billion. This man owns Berkshire Hathaway. You may recognize that company from real estate signs in your area. But in addition to that, Berkshire Hathaway owns BNSF Railway. And so they are looking to pursue capital projects like this one in order to increase their capacity, to have more things being shipped through their network rather than their competitors. And they are working hand in glove with local politicians and the real estate sector in this area, because the story that they are all telling the residents of Barstow is this is going to bring jobs, this is going to bring growth, that's going to be good for everybody. And who it's really going to be good for is them. It's going to be good for BNSF. They're going to have greater capacity to move freight for their customers. Meanwhile, the rest of us are going to be breathing dirtier air as a result. And yes, Danielle, like it is most immediately going to affect the people of Barstow. But for folks not in Barstow, but who live elsewhere in Southern California, this is going to affect you too, right? We down the hill down here, we all live in the LA Air Basin. This is a region that is dedicated to the freight and logistics sector. Around 40% of imported consumer goods already are moved through the dual ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach and processed in the warehouses and rail yards of East LA in the Inland Empire. And this is just a further encroachment of the logistics industry over our land and our environment and ultimately into our lungs. And so the next question that folks might have is, what are the risks to my health or my children's health? And these facilities, they operate 24/7, 365. They have a high concentration of the oldest, dirtiest locomotives operating within them because for one reason or another, we don't use electric trains like many other places in the world. And as there has been implementation of what are known as tier 4 trains, the EPA has over time introduced higher and higher tiers, better standards for locomotives. Those standards don't apply to trains that are remanufactured. This is what you call when you repair and tune up an older locomotive. Locomotives are still always only held to the emission standards from the year they were originally built. And in 2021, there was, I don't know, let me pull up the exact number, but close to a majority were still held to like pre-2000 standards. So all that's to say is the locomotives operating in the rail yards are the oldest and dirtiest. And here we go. I've got that number for us. Yeah. In 2021, so maybe it's gotten better. I would be hard pressed to think that it's gotten significantly better. But in 2021, Class 1 railroads were still using 45% of their locomotives were held to standards before 2000, which is when they first started introducing standards at all. So a lot of these older, dirtier locomotives, they are in the rail yards doing what's called switching, which is the building of these longer trains. Because if you have a better, more efficient, cleaner locomotive, to save money, you want to send that one on the longer haul trips between train yards. Meanwhile, the older, dirtier ones are right next to where people live and go to school and play, etc. These diesel locomotives, they release two types of pollutants that are problematic for our health. Those are NOx, nitric oxide, and particulate matter, 2.5. These are extremely fine particles that get released into the air, land on the ground, get kicked up by cars, get into our water and our soil, and they're so fine that they can be inhaled by the human body, go into our lungs. Once they're in our lungs, they can go into our blood. And once it's in our blood, it's in all of our organs, including our brain. This leads to high levels of childhood asthma and COPD and cancer, as well as, to the topic at hand for you all, decreased birth weights and other premature births as well.
Thank you for sharing all that, Ryan. So in our consortium work here with the Healthy Start San Bernardino program, our goal is to ensure that community members receive clear, practical information, especially when major infrastructure is proposed nearby. So pregnancy is a sensitive window, and environmental exposures that might be tolerable for some adults matter much more for fetal development and newborn health. So when we talk about clean air here, we're also talking about maternal and infant health protections. A robust body of evidence links exposure to air pollutants like the fine particulate matter, the PM 2.5 that Ryan just talked about, and ground level ozone during pregnancy with higher risks of outcomes like preterm birth and low birth weight. And some studies have also found associations between pollution exposures, and that's from traffic, industrial, and wildfire smoke as well, and stillborn risk. So researchers describe plausible pathways involving inflammation and placental function. So in an area that's already receiving an F grade for air quality, it's not just one source. Families experience the total burden from trains, from trucks, warehouses, dust, and heat altogether. So noise, vibration, and 24/7 operations from things like railroads such as that can affect sleep and stress, which are both relevant to pregnancy and postpartum well-being. So traffic patterns matter for prenatal visits, emergency response times, and also ensuring that infants get access to timely care. So thank you for sharing all that information, Ryan. So people often want to show up, but don't really know what to say. So I just have some questions that you can bring to the public meetings, especially if you're a parent, caregiver, or birth worker. And Ryan, can you lead us in going through what those questions could possibly be at these hearings for the public?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to be frank though with folks. Like this hearing is not exactly ideal two-way communication between the public and their elected officials, right? They are pretty set on using the environmental impact report as kind of a hand wavy tool. They want to be like, hey, look, like just look at the report. We put out this tens of thousands of page document. Just go through there, read it, educate yourself, kind of a thing. I would be seriously surprised if any of these planning commissioners sat down and read every page of this thing themselves. But yeah, like let's go through. When it comes to your health and your air quality, kind of the main topic. What air quality protections are planned during construction and operations, and how will it be monitored? As of right now, based on the draft report, we haven't heard anything about this. That's not really a concern as far as we can tell. And also, what specific steps to reduce diesel exhaust exposure near homes, schools, and childcare sites can be taken. These are, sensitive areas, and they ought to be taken into consideration. Not to mention the workers that are going to be doing the building, doing the operations in these things to make a living. How are they being taken care of? I've heard from the existing rail yard, they're at a point now where sometimes they have to give oxygen tanks to the workers who are driving the trains. They're going to give all these kids at the schools nearby oxygen tanks to make sure they can breathe clean air. I don't know if that's a good way to go. And Danielle, feel free to jump in. I was just going to kind of run through the questions, but if more questions come up for you, then please do. But yeah, in addition to the air, what is hello? What is the plan to do the grading adjustments, the bridges, the extra turning lanes? This is a big thing that folks who live out near the project have been talking about. With the increase of train and truck traffic, how are people going to be able to get to work, get to the emergency room, get home? All of these things are going to be called into question, and good questions for us to ask ourselves and then ask our elected officials when it comes time. How are things going to be routed? What are the hours of operation? I'll tell you, 24/7, 365 is really going to be the nature of these operations. And exact truck traffic, I would imagine they're going to be using the 15 freeway a lot, an already crowded and miserable place to drive, if you don't mind me saying. And then what happens if there's an accident there? What happens when the truck traffic needs to be rerouted through the normal roads through Barstow? And then how can we mitigate noise and light? There is a group of folks, of neighbors out on Sylvan Avenue who are going to be neighbors with this thing. This has been a big question of theirs for a while. Can we get a sound wall? Can BNSF, with all of their billions, can they throw in however, I don't know, a couple 100,000, maybe $1 million or $2 million that it would take to make sure we have a sound wall, so we're not constantly being driven insane, frankly, by the constant noise of the rail yards. And then, I work for a union. I care about jobs deeply, intensely. What local jobs are going to be going to folks? As far as I understand, there are no guaranteed local hiring provisions in the existing plans. They are going to, a portion of the construction jobs will be going to the building trades. But the range of where these people live encompasses all of Southern California. That's why in BNSF's proposal for this project, they reference the Los Angeles metro area as having sufficient workforce numbers to build this thing in a timely manner. And with all due respect, like I am in favor of us all standing united and advocating for each other. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Barstow gets left behind and there's no provisions for local hiring. And jobs. People like to throw around, oh, there's going to be so many jobs in these warehouses, so many jobs in the yard. Have you talked to someone who works in a warehouse in San Bernardino? I've got people who, my friends of mine, they've stood up for themselves. They've asserted their rights to unionize and fight for better conditions. And Amazon is ignoring them and refusing to bargain with them. And no elected official is protecting their rights and saying that Amazon should come to the table and bargain for them. Is that going to be the same thing? Is that the life that the parents of Barstow want for their kids right now? The teenagers of today will be the new hires at these warehouses where they're going doing backbreaking work in hot and dangerous conditions, breathing in toxic air. And then if they want to do something about it and they get together and organize and want to go to the bargaining table and fight for better conditions, I don't think the city council is going to have their back as much as they're, sprinting to approve this project. It just seems like that's one of, many, many things that have not been thought through about this project. And yeah, what's the ongoing community meetings? Has there been any kind of a political process? Danielle, my understanding is that you went out of your way. Your husband went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. No one knocked on your door and said, hey, just so you know, we're doing this thing. It's going to cause an update to the general plan for the city of Barstow. It's going to completely warp the development of the entire area for the foreseeable future. No one had these conversations because, frankly, they don't care. Warren Buffett, the city council, they're operating in a way that sends a very clear message of them not really caring about what happens to the individuals and the residents that are going to be affected by this thing. And so that kind of puts it on us to get organized, talk to each other, and stand up for ourselves, starting with not this Saturday, but this coming Saturday on the 16th.
Yes, to add on to that, sorry, my child is ready to go to sleep. So I think for me, the biggest thing is really just having protective measures like going forward, because, as Ryan said, it's like this is kind of like a signed, sealed, delivered situation where they're planning on moving forward with it, with full force. And I think that as a parent and just a community member in general, is like you want to know what rights you're going to have going forward, especially as things come up, whether it's having transparency meetings where they have to address our concerns and they have to address like what these specific things are, or they have to give a report on, X, Y, and Z. If there's policies that the city can enact where, hey, in this contract, we want to amend it and we want to actually put these things in place that you have to meet this threshold, or you can't do this certain things. Because I think that, especially with the size of this project, is that we can also still not know the fullness of what that impact is going to be as time goes on. And I think that wanting to not just feel like, oh, we're just stuck in this thing, but knowing that no, change can actually happen along the way, and that's definitely with accountability, and it's definitely with some force, because for me, I want these corporations to be accountable to the people that they are like directly impacting, and for our voice to be, hey, if we're not meeting their voice, if we're not listening to them, not just like, oh yeah, like the yes and yeah, oh yeah, okay, we hear you, but genuinely actually like, I have a sick son over here, so he's like, sorry. But just where there's an actionable plan that is required from them on whatever they're going to move forward on, that we can approve before they make any other decisions. So that's kind of my mindset and headspace of, what I think about, going into the meeting.
Thank you, Danielle. And if you need to attend to your family, you can go ahead. I can close us out with just Ryan if you need to attend to your children. And never apologize. Like I said, we're moms here. Never need to apologize. That's the realism of our day-to-day life. And I appreciate your input and everything you shared today from the community perspective. So Ryan, can you provide to community what the clear call to action is? How can community members get involved?
Absolutely. First and foremost, let your voice be heard. There will be a hearing on Saturday, May 16th, 1 p.m. at the Barstow Community College Performing Arts Center. That's 2700 Barstow Road. We will be out there giving public comment, letting the city know that we're watching and we have concerns about this thing. Other than that, there will be a release tomorrow of this final environmental impact report. If you are in the mood for some very dense and long reading, go ahead to that website that I read out earlier, or just Google City of Barstow BIG documents, or better yet, go to the Green Locomotive Project Linktree, which we can also link in the notes, hopefully. And we've got the information there for you. And follow along. Follow groups like CCAJ, Earth Justice. These folks are going to be posting summaries and major concerns about the final environmental impact report. And yeah, frankly, it's kind of an all hands on deck situation. Anything beyond those things that you want to do to connect with other people, connect with us, raise awareness generally in the Barstow area of the health risks involved, particularly for our children associated with this project, please do it. If that's a song, a poster, a skit, anything like that, or you want to get involved and organize with us, right? We're knocking doors. We're making calls to our neighbors, other parents at our schools, those types of things. This is really the fundamental self-organizing that is super crucial for a functioning democracy. And yeah, just the lesson that we've learned so far in this process is that the people who have power to do something about this and look out for our health are actively choosing not to. There's a group of neighbors that are going to live across from this thing. They've been at every city council meeting for 5 or 6 months at this point, just completely getting ignored by elected officials in Barstow. And even going back 2 years from that, they're trying to talk to BNSF. They tell them to go talk to the county. The county tells them to go talk to the city, and then they get sent through the whole cycle over and over again. And this started with some really, really basic requests like sound walls and turning lanes. And they've just gotten so stonewalled that now we've, as a region, really kind of consolidated. We've got environmental justice groups, our membership, directly impacted residents, and we're all coming together. And yeah, it is extremely long odds. The political momentum at this time is definitely concentrated in, again, BNSF, the city council, and the local real estate sector. But they are few and we are many. We have, righteousness and justice and those types of just basic fundamental needs like breathing clean air and having clean water on our side. And so, we will continue to march forward and fighting, but we definitely need everyone to join us however they can.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Before we close out, Danielle, did you have any last words? Okay, I just want to check to make sure we didn't forget anything. So thank you, Ryan and Danielle, for helping our community navigate this with clarity and care. If you take one step after listening to this podcast episode today, let it be this: check the meeting materials on May 8th and consider attending on May 16th, even if you're only there to just listen. Being present matters. So if you appreciate today's conversation, we encourage you to learn more about local policies and how you can get involved by joining the community consortium, which is linked in our bio. I'm also going to share our community partners that Ryan mentioned as well in the caption, so you can follow their pages and follow along with the policies. So thank you for listening to another episode of the Healthy Start San Bernardino podcast, where we elevate voices, share resources, and hold hope for a healthy start. Take care. Okay.